guilty of contempt of Congress for failing to comply with a subpoena.
So I apologize. That should fix that. So my bad. Yeah, I had another audio source playing. So everything's going through a mixer, and even though I can't hear it in my headphones because I've muted it on my mixer, for whatever reason, this platform likes to pick up all of that extra background noise. Hopefully you guys could hear what I was mumbling about over CNN. So that means that all of the audio for the past 11 minutes has basically been you guys listening to CNN on top of whatever I've been doing. So apologize for that, but you know what? Worse things can happen. So basically what I was mumbling about for the past 5 minutes while you guys were enjoying CNN playing in the background was that, I'm basically looking for, I need to renew the SSL certificates here on my Jenkins box. And so what I'm doing right now is just kind of looking for where I need to update the paths to the new key and certificate for that to take place. And I'm really not seeing anything pop out at me as to where I need to update this. It's been a year since I've dealt with it, so I completely forgot, right? History, when I run history, is not really showing me anything. I'm not really seeing anything in the Jenkins home directory that really sticks out to me either as something that I could utilize to set the certificate's path. And then I also looked in the services description as well to see if there was any environment variables set here for HTTPS, which there is one here, but it's commented out. So I must be doing it elsewhere. And so I was just going to Google and see what is going on. Let me see if I have Nginx here, because I did see in history where I was messing around with Nginx, but it could have been a route I was going to deal with HTTPS, and then I backed out of it and just applied it directly to Jenkins. I don't remember having Nginx up here and running. Oh, so we'll just check and see if there is a service. And yeah, it's basically dead. So that's not a thing. We're going to switch over to the browser real quick, and we'll take a look at and we'll Google the issue over here. So let me go ahead and share out my browser real quick. I'd share out my whole monitor, but I have an ultra wide monitor, and so it's it's way too much, too high of a resolution to go ahead and put out on the entire screen. So I'm going to go ahead and share out my browser window here. And so we'll just basically search for renewing SSL certificates for Jenkins and see what comes up. There's got to be a bunch of, and it looks like this is probably what I used to configure it about a year ago. So I think our best shot is to take a look at this already visited link in order to see how I may have done this. So I did see this, right, where I convert the certificate in the key that's delivered to me in essentially a PEM format or a CRT format from my issuer to a P12. And then I convert that over to a JKS. And then that's what I need to reference somewhere. But where is the question? And it looks like there is, okay. It says sysconfig, etc sysconfig. And then those are the environment variables that I saw before. So we'll go ahead and let me just double check before I switch over there to see if this directory exists. And I don't think that is a directory that exists here. Cat etc sysconfig Jenkins. Huh. Okay. So that is definitely not how I did things here. I'm wondering where I set this. I remember setting Java arguments for Jenkins. So maybe if I just search for Java arguments, doesn't look like I have any other visited links here. So Java args for Jenkins. Let's see what we can come up with here. Because I set the arguments in a file. And if anybody in chat happens to know, who's renewed certificates in Jenkins before. So we know that It's not etc sysconfig. There's got to be some sort of, this is all for CloudBees though. This is Cloud BCI documentation, that's why. So I'm not running a container. So it's not like it's something that will be on the container. Let's just do this. Configure HTTPS for Jenkins. And then we'll take a look at some other documentation. And this is Windows documentation. That's not going to be helpful. Let's check out Stack Overflow. Key tool. Here we go. So somewhere, this is how I did it. This is how I remember doing it. There's a Java command that runs, but when I look at the service that's running Jenkins, I don't see any of that information there. We can take another look again, and maybe it'll stick out to me now that I have a better understanding of what's going on here. So I am in the Jenkins home directory, which shouldn't matter. If we go ahead and we cat out the service, I would imagine at the top we would have some information on where we're looking. So it looks like it's executing user bin Jenkins. So let's go ahead. Here we are. So that is the ticket. So it's going to, when the service starts, it's going to execute this. And so in here somewhere should be some Java arguments where we're listing HTTPS port. Okay, we're getting somewhere. A bunch of variables right now. Maybe they're set at the top. Let's see. These variables have to come from somewhere. And I'm guessing maybe the service manifest, the service description. So let's go ahead and take a look at this again. Because a lot of these environment variables are commented out. So there's the Jenkins home. We know that's Jenkins home. The web root for the war file. Commented out. So we're running headless. Port 8080. But everything else is commented out. Maybe Nginx is here and I'm just not finding it. Which Nginx? Okay. So let's see what is it? Nginx, right? LS. Can we cd the site's available? LS. Aha. I guess I did do this. So let me check out the nginx.conf here, the configuration for Nginx, and it looks like I may have created some sort of forwarding from 8080 to HTTPS. And so the keys would be set in here. No, I'm not seeing anything unless there's a file included in one of these directories, which we can take a look at. So this is not the ticket. Let's go to sites enabled. And all right, we have Jenkins here. So this is where, all right, so we've got a certificate and the key. So this is actually pretty easy. All I'm going to really need to do is just update the PEM files for the key and the certificate that live in the Ubuntu home directory. And then, to be safe, I'll restart the server. And then we should be able to check the certificate in the browser and see that it's updated. So it took a couple minutes for me to figure out where I left everything off at in my lab. But hey, at least I don't need to rebuild Jenkins or anything like that today. And let me go ahead and share out my browser real quick. We'll take a look at the certificate that's currently applied in the browser. And I've been sharing things and not adding it to the stream, so I apologize for that. Kind of a weird setup when I need to share every screen out. It really is kind of upset. It makes me want to get a second monitor that's just a regular size so that I don't need to keep switching around and stuff like that. But it is what it is. It's just a casual stream today, so no worries. So this is the website I was looking at before. We're going to go to my Jenkins server. So jenkins.joegarcia.dev. We'll take a look at the certificate. So the certificate here expires on the 1st of October. So less than 30 days to get this renewed. So we'll come back and we'll check this after I copy over the new key information. So let's go ahead and we'll close this out for now. We'll keep this page up, but we'll switch back over to the terminal here and then get to work with copying the files over and taking care of business. All right, so I have the certificates already here. You can see there's a couple Jenkins ones. There's jenkins.joegarcia.crt, which I'm going to convert into a PEM, and then I have a PEM for the key. Let's just go ahead and real quick, I use BAT typically instead of CAT when I'm on my MacBook. So I just want to check the public certificate here. So I can just change that then from jenkins.joegarcia.dev.crt to jenkins.joegarcia.dev.pem like that. Actually, let's see, what does it say? Okay, so I'm using underscores in between. So jenkins_joegarcia_dev.pem. And then we'll move the key to match the name that we have for the key over here. So that's going to be jenkins_joegarcia_dev_key.pem. So I've got both of these files ready to go. I just need to now copy them onto this machine into the home Ubuntu directory. And that we can go ahead and let's move the current ones to be backed up. .bak. Oh. No. Oh, sorry. There we go. PEM, and then we'll do it again. Man, my brain is all messed up today. I don't know what's going on with me. Not enough coffee or something? Maybe too much coffee. All right. Maybe it's just the fact that people are watching me work and I'm not used to that. But you know what? Time to get used to it. So we'll change this one to dev.pem or dev.key.pem.bak. And so those are there. And then we'll SCP these files over here. And we'll do the underscores. I just renamed them. So .pem will go to Ubuntu, Jenkins, home Ubuntu. And then we'll add on. We'll add on key onto here and then put that one over there. So we should now see both of those here. Let's check the permissions on both of them. So we need to bring back this one a bit and this one a lot. So we're going to sudo, I'll do 600 for Jenkins_Joe Garcia, the PEM. That should bring it about even. Yep. And then we'll do the same for the key. So now both of those are good. I should be able to, I could technically just restart Nginx and have it update that way, but I installed some updates earlier that require reboot. I remember that much at least. So we're going to go ahead and just reboot the whole machine here. And so we'll wait for that to reboot. Shouldn't take too long for it to boot back up. And while that's happening, I do need to refresh or renew another certificate for Conjure. So we can do that while we wait. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen out, share my browser out for us to be able to handle that. So let me go ahead and do that now. So this is kind of where we left off, but I get all of my certificates from SSLs.com, SSLs, right? .com. They're pretty cheap there and get the job done. So I've got Conjure here that I need to reactivate as well. It falls into the same time frame. We'll download the private key, move onwards. It's going to pool my email addresses and then send me a confirmation email that I'll have to use a particular key in order to validate. So I'll go ahead and submit that. And while that's, I'm going to do off screen, I'm going to go ahead and deal with the email and the verification because it does send me a one-time passcode that I need to do that with. And don't necessarily want everyone seeing that information. So we'll go ahead and waiting for that email to come through here. All right, I got it. I am copying the validation code, clicking and pasting. So I've gone ahead and taken care of that off screen. You guys aren't seeing this. And so now I can confirm that I pasted the code, and it'll take a couple seconds for it to validate. And then I'll receive an email with my SSL certificates and everything. So while that's taking place, all that's going to happen is I'm going to download the SSL certificates once this is done in about 100 seconds or so. We should be able to log on now to the Jenkins machine again and double check our certificates, make sure everything came up okay, all of that fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and share this back out then. And so we can SSH back on to the Jenkins box. Everything is up. Everything is updated. We don't require a restart or anything like that. Let's go ahead and make sure that Jenkins started back up okay. Because if there's any issues with that certificate, well, I guess Jenkins would start because it's just going to be serving over 8080 anyhow, and then Nginx will be taking care of the HTTPS from there. So. But we can still check the status of Jenkins while we're on here. It's up and running. So we should be able to log into the website as well. So we'll switch over to the website. And only about 30 seconds left on the validation of the code that I provided. So that should be done by the time we get done checking Jenkins. So I should just be able to refresh this page and have it reload, which it did. And we can check the certificate. View the certificate. And so it looks like that the certificate did not update here. I'm still somehow using the old certificate. So I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. We definitely updated those certificates and moved them to .bak. But for some reason, this isn't updating. Let's log into Jenkins and see if maybe I can figure out something inside of Jenkins itself. This is the first time I'm actually doing this. Typically what I'll do is I'll back up all of my different jobs because I don't really have much going on in here, and I'll just deploy a new Jenkins instance and then start fresh again. But I really want to understand how you can renew in place the certificates for Jenkins. So that's really the goal here today. So we'll go to Manage Jenkins, and looks like there's some plugins that need updating. But I don't need to downgrade at all. So we'll go to configure system and take a look at what we've got in there. Our URL's good. I don't see anything that sticks out to me. Nothing in here, no. We'll go back. And it's not a credential provider. It's not a tool or a node. I'm not seeing anything listed in here. Here we go. So there is a key store and okay. So something, so the Java command has, so even though Nginx is set up and running, I don't believe that Nginx is actually doing anything. Let me add this to the stream here real quick. So here in the browser, you know, I see the command, the Java command in Jenkins. We're logged into Jenkins right now and under manage Jenkins and taking a look at system information. This is one way I remember doing it. The other way is Nginx, which we just, you know, updated the Nginx method. However, it didn't quite take. The certificate is still saying that it expires on October 1st of this year. So Nginx is kind of like this orphaned path that I may have taken about a year ago to get this set up and get SSL configured. I need to find this HTTPS key store here that utilizes this super secure password that everyone knows and loves. Not that it matters, but this HTTPS key store is what I need to update. So I think that what I can do is convert the PEM files that I loaded up previously, just overwrite this file that lives here, make sure that the key store password is the same, and then I can just restart the Jenkins service and it will update that certificate. I won't need to figure out where this is being done at. I don't need to Google anymore. We can just do that, and we can, yeah. So we'll do that. Let's take this key store path and move over to the terminal and confirm that it exists in the Jenkins home. This is basically the Jenkins home path here. And we'll work on converting the PEM certificate and the PEM private key and bundling it into a JSON key set. What's up, Josh? How are you doing? I see you in chat out there on Twitch. Welcome. I'm going to switch over to the terminal now, and we'll take care of this. So let me go ahead and share out the terminal. Which doesn't show up real quick. There we go. Now I can see it. So we're going to share screen. I'm actually going to share back out the system information here from Jenkins so that I can share screen, terminal. Here we go. Allow. And add it to the stream. There we go. All right, so Jenkins is running. We need to go to var lib Jenkins. And in here should be a jenkins.jks file, according to what I'm seeing right here. Boom. So we're going to update that, and we're going to change it to include the new key and new certificate that I just renewed. And so the commands to do that, I'm going to need to Google real quick, but you don't need to see that. Convert PEM to JKS. Very simple. And we'll follow some Google guide on how to do that there. I'm going to exit out of this screen so that we have a bigger view here. Kind of bring this down a bit like that. And then we'll go ahead and CD back to the user home because that's where my key and certificate lives. looks like I already have a JKS and a P12. So basically, what we're going to need to do is we're going to convert the PEM files into a PKCS12 certificate, basically a bundled, right, certificate. And then from there, we're going to convert that P12 into a JKS. We're going to be overwriting these. I'm going to move them actually, just in case anything goes wrong, and go ahead and back them up, just so I can always restore back, and it buys me some time to figure things out if anything were to go wrong. So we've got that. Let's go ahead and we'll start with, we've got our PEM files. So we'll use OpenSSL for this. PKCS12 export in is going to be the Jenkins certificate, which is named that. Our in key is going to be the private key, which is named the same, but with underscore key appended to it. Our out file name is going to be jenkins.p12, and we'll name it, I don't know, Jenkins SSL certificate. Who cares, right? We'll give it an export password here just to follow directions. And so we should have now our PK or our P12 file. Now we need to take this P12 and convert it into a Java key store format. JKS is the extension for that. And we're going to use key tool in order to do that. That is a tool that comes with Java for handling Java key store actions and commands. And we're going to import key store, give it a source key store of our jenkins.p12 file, give it a source store type of pkcs12, and a destination key store name of jenkins.jks. And so I'm going to have to provide the passwords for everything here. All right, looks like it's successfully imported. And so that should have added now a Jenkins JKS file. And I can copy that jenkins.jks file to var lib Jenkins, which is my Jenkins home. I'll need to sudo that to overwrite. And so now we've updated the jenkins.jks, and I should be able to restart my Jenkins service. And then we'll check the status, make sure it's active and running. And if it is, we'll check it in the browser. All right, so it's active and running. That's always good news to see. Let's bump over to the browser now, and we'll double check it over there. So I'm going to stop sharing, share out my browser. I'm going to need to come up with some sort of like macro for doing this somehow. I have a Stream Deck, but I just haven't looked into how to swap out windows quite yet. So that's the web page I was viewing. Here's Jenkins. I should just be able to come back here. It loaded. We'll check the certificate information. View the certificate. And we are updated. So now I've got until October 1st of 2023 on the lifespan of this SSL certificate. So I'm good for about another year. That gives me a lot of time to forget everything that we just did today. But luckily, I'm live streaming it, and mainly so I have a recording next year to come back and take a look at how I did everything. It'll be a lot quicker next year because I have this. And so this will save on to a video on demand on Twitch, as well as an on-demand video on YouTube. So Jenkins is good to go. We can now move over to Conjure, and I should be able to download that SSL certificate here. So that is going to download, and then it'll go to the next step of confirming the installation of this particular SSL certificate. So both of these here, this is the private key and the certificate. I don't need to update the CA root information in Conjure itself, I should just need to update the certificates that are being utilized. Now, I have not done this before either, so it's going to be a new process for me as well. I don't run a production deployment of Conjure. I am just running simply a leader, and I have a follower. No, actually, I don't have a follower. I just have my leader. And so if we take a look at the Conjure cluster in this cog up here, we can see all of the nodes, and it's just this Conjure leader here. So it's all good. Everything's good. It's going to be very easy for me to do this. There is a process that you can take in order to do this in a production deployment. Typically, our security services can be utilized in order to help out from CyberArk's perspective. But the process would be a little bit more involved than what you're going to see here today. The process I'm going to take to update this is I'm going to ensure that I have a current backup of the leader. Then I'm going to run the commands in the container that I need to run in order to update the SSL certificate information. And then I'm going to just double check on the health of everything, make sure everything is still there, nothing broke. If anything breaks, I still have that backup that I can revert to. So I won't be too scared about anything. I could always just redeploy, start from scratch, and then restore from that backup if I need to. But I want to avoid that. That's typically what I do is I'll take a backup, blast away the container, redeploy a new container, restore from backup, and then add the certificates from there that I need, import my third-party SSL certificates. I don't want to do that this time. I want to upgrade, or I want to renew those SSL certificates in place, just like I did for Jenkins. So that's how I'm going to handle it. If you're dealing with a production deployment where you have, leader candidates or standbys, we call them, followers as well, then there is additional steps that need to take place on top of just backing up, importing those new certificates, and then potentially restoring if anything were to go wrong. You also have to take the additional steps of reseeding the standbys so that it understands and has the new certificates, right, that align with the new certificates you just imported, as well as the same for the followers. They need to be reseeded as well. So there's a couple additional steps to deal with those other roles that are not present in my particular cluster today. But outside of that, it's a fairly straightforward and easy process. I won't need to do any conversion of the files that I received. We should just be able to manage them themselves. So I'm going to move them from my downloads directory into my certificates directory, and we'll be able to unzip them there. So they're copied over. Let me go ahead and share out my terminal now. And then we'll get to work over there. So I'm going to add this, and then we're going to exit out of this machine. We're done with Jenkins for the day. So I'm going to CD to OneDrive, where I keep a lot of this stuff. Software, certificates. And so we have 2 zip files here. Oh, whoop, nope, that's for DEP. We're looking for Conjure, these zip files here. So I'm going to unzip Conjure cert, and we're going to unzip Conjure key. And so those files are now listed in here. I can remove both of the cert and key files. And then I like to change the extension of the key file here and replace those periods with underscores so that it looks more like this, with an underscore key ended on a .pem. And then I'll do the same for the CRT public certificate. It just is a kind of the way that I handle things in my environment. Too many periods start to confuse me, and so I like to avoid that. Unfortunately, CRT can easily just be converted to a PEM file and won't really need any additional work. So I've got my 2 PEM files here that we're going to be using in Conjure. I'm going to go ahead and SSH onto that Conjure box. And I've got a couple updates that I can do here. Maybe we'll deal with that in a bit, but I just have Conjure running in Docker. You can see it's here. So all the commands are going to be using Docker exec, we'll Docker CP. Actually, I believe that I have, no, I don't. So actually we can Docker inspect Conjure, and we'll see if I've mapped the directories like I typically do. We can take a look at the volume mapping in here. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything mapped to. There we go. So we're going to, yeah, I didn't map any of the SSL directories. So we're going to need to copy that bad boy. We're going to copy it right into, oh no, look. All right, so anything in home Ubuntu is mapped to root. So we'll be able to just copy the new certificate and key into Ubuntu's home, and that'll be accessible inside the container from root. So I won't need to do any Docker CP commands or anything like that. So that's a quick and easy way for you to check your configuration of your containers. So we're going to first start off, I'm going to split this, and we'll move to the directory that I was just in. So that's going to be CyberArk, software, certificates. And then in here are my 2 PEM files. So we'll take the first one, and we're going to SCP that file onto the Conjure server into home Ubuntu, so that then we can update it in Conjure. And we'll take a backup and stuff like that as well before we do that. So that should be that. That'll copy over, and then I can add underscore key, and that'll get the key over. So that should be all I need to do there. We'll just ls and make sure it's all here. It is. So we're good to go there. And then just to make double sure, we'll go ahead, Docker exec, Conjure, and we'll ls root. And so we can see those 2 keys here. So what we're going to do is first take a backup of Conjure as it stands, and just to make sure I'm doing the right evoke commands, we're going to use a tool called evoke that allows you to communicate with Conjure. Kind of similar to how we have Packly for the Vault, and it kind of speaks the Vault's language. We have a CLI inside the Conjure container called evoke that we can utilize to configure that. Josh, have a great day at work. Hope you have fun. And I'll talk to you later if we get a chance to. Thanks for hanging out for the couple minutes you had. I appreciate that. So I'm just looking up real quick the evoke back. I think it's just evoke backup. I think it's as simple as that, and then it'll be added into the backup directory that I have already mapped locally here, just in case we need it. I doubt that we will. Yep, and it's just evoke backup, just as I thought. So we'll run Docker exec Conjure evoke backup, and that's just taking a backup right now. Boom, everything that we got. So it's encrypted. It's placed in the container, but it's also available on the local file system for me to be able to grab and then decrypt and restore and stuff like that. So with that, then we're ready to deal with the certificates, which is always fun. And I want to make sure that I get these commands correct, because there is one where you load the root and then one where you're just updating the certificates. And so I'm going to look that up in our documentation really quickly. It should be under like importing third-party certificates or something. It's probably import third-party, I think, is a good search term to use. Configure the Conjure cluster. And then optional import third-party certificates. And the command is going to be, we're going to Docker exec to Conjure again. We're going to say evoke CA import. No restart. No, we can restart. I don't need to no restart that. Key is going to be root, right? Hey, wait a minute. I copied the Jenkins keys. I didn't copy the Conjure keys. Let me fix that. Nobody said anything in chat. What are you guys doing to me here? So Jenkins underscore. All right. At least I caught it before we got too far. Let me copy over the right keys now. That would probably help if I was going to renew SSL over here. So we're going to cd back into the directory here, and we're going to SCP, but not Jenkins, guys. We're gonna do Conjure like this. There we go. So now we'll copy these over, and then we'll do the same for the key. Okay, now we should be good over here. There we go. So I'm gonna one more time just do a 400 on Conjure Joe $. So that should get it to the right permissions. Yep. Let's just do 600. I don't want to. There we go. All right. So back to what we were doing before now. Docker exec Conjure, and I'm going to use evoke to import my CA certificates, right? The key is going to be in root Conjure Joe Garcia dev key.pem. And then we're going to set the certificate to be root Conjure Joe Garcia dev.pem. And so this should set, I don't need to change the root CA. That hasn't changed at all. So these should stop the services and then restart. And then we can check the SSL certificate and make sure everything's good. So let's jump over to my browser, and we'll check the certificate on Conjure. So a lot easier than Jenkins, right? So far. May have just jinxed it though. So stay tuned while I swap over to my browser window now. So we're in the Conjure UI. Back exactly where we were, but if I go to the dashboard, it should just kick us out. Oh, it didn't. It loaded right up. Let's sign out. Let's go ahead and check the certificate and make sure it's updated. And it is. October 1st, 2023. We've updated that certificate. I'm good to go on Conjure. Conjure way easier than Jenkins, which I expected because I hate Java. And the Java key store is just hair ripping. Apparently, the Java key store is just as hard as me managing this streaming platform that I'm using. If you go back and review this video, if you just join the stream, like the first 10 minutes or so, I have all sorts of background noise happening from CNN and stuff like that. Because I didn't realize that my mixer, despite muting in my headphones different channels, just lets everything ride through. So, but yeah, so that's Conjure. We've got Jenkins that we took care of. I do have a couple others that I can renew as well. They're Let's Encrypt certificates, and they're available on a couple servers. Let me just check my email here real quick and see what two servers they were. So basically, Let's Encrypt certificates, SSL certificates, need to be renewed every 90 days. And when you create an SSL certificate for the first time, it asks for an email address, and some people will skip it. I actually provide my email address because it will alert you at like 30 days, 10 days, 7 days, like it's expiring now, and it'll kind of just keep nagging you to go ahead and refresh that certificate, renew that certificate before it expires. So I do that, and I've been getting alerts for 2, maybe 3. Looks like I've got two that are part of a software supply chain demo that need to be updated. And then my Ansible automation platform 2 instance that needs to be updated as well. So we can go ahead and do that. Since we're already updating some SSL certificates, we'll do that. It should be pretty easy to do. Let's Encrypt makes it very easy. So I just really need to give a command and make sure that a couple ports are open for it to be able to communicate very quickly. So we're gonna switch over back to my terminal and do most of the work over there. There's nothing in the browser that needs to be done except for me opening up a couple ports, which I don't necessarily think that anybody needs to see. So I'll go ahead and share out my terminal, and then we'll get to work. So here's my terminal. And we're going to exit out of Conjure. We don't need to be there anymore. We can go home. It doesn't matter. I do need to start my Ansible automation platform server in AWS, and I kind of got automation set up to do that. So I have an alias AWS start, and then I can give the name of the server. In this case, I've aliased it to AAP2. And so what this is doing, this script is actually pretty cool. I have a shell script that uses summon in order to start and stop instances based on names that I've given them. So if I were to show you a secrets.yaml file that lives in my user home that it references, I'm using summon in order to provide information to the shell script that runs when I use the alias AWS-start. And so you can see here, I've got different environments in the secrets.yaml file where things are kind of sectioned off. Anytime I run an AWS CLI command, it's logging in with the information here. So there's no secret information that's stored in plain text on my local file system. It's all injected by these environment variables just in time using CyberArk's open source tool, Summon, which is really cool. I really enjoy that because it allows me now to update these values without having to really run any additional commands in the CLI. It's just automatically managed going forward. And then for the different instances that I want to start and stop using my alias, I just have created these little aliases for each one, and then I give the instance ID. So that way, when it runs the AWS EC2 start instance, instance ID, whatever, like I'm just calling this particular environment variable AAP, or actually the environment variable is injected through that argument that I give, where I'm giving the alias. So this will become what that value is, and I'll just say, in the shell script, what $1, right? It's the first argument that's given, and then I have the instance ID. So I can start any instances just by knowing the name. Don't really need to worry about what the instance ID actually is or provide that. Pretty cool way of handling that. It works for me. You guys can get pretty cool with it, but we should be all right. It was already running anyway. So typically if it was stopped and needed to be started, this would be current state would be pending, and then previous state would be pending, current state would be pending, and this would have said stopped or something like that. So Ansible's already running. We should be able to connect to it. aap.joegarcia.dev. And so we'll be able to log in here. And if you do a history in grep certbot, you can see that all we need to do is run the simple command of sudo certbot renew. And then we'll just need to restart the Ansible services in order to refresh that certificate. And that should actually be just a simple command as well. Where is it? It's like a Ansible something start, Ansible something control, Ansible dash controller. I don't know. We'll look it up in history here in a second. Let's get these certificates renewed. I'm going to open up a couple ports real quick temporarily so that We can do our HTTP validation checks, and it can go ahead and retrieve that inbound validation that it needs. So I'm just clicking through. I'm not showing this, but I'm clicking through my AWS console to get there. I am in the wrong region, so I need to switch regions real quick in AWS, and then I should see everything. There we go. So AAP2, security, Ansible, edit inbound, add 80, temporarily, sudo certbot, renew. Oh, yeah. So there is a, let me go to history. How did I do this before? So 80's in use. I may need to stop Nginx or something like that in order to, where did I do this last time? It must be up here somewhere. Here we go. So we'll stop it, and we'll renew, and then we'll start it. So stop, sudo certbot, renew. There we go. And then we'll start. And then we'll remove 80. Boom, boom. And so I only needed those ports open for like, what, 30 seconds, 1 minute. And we should be good to go here. I can double check in the browser. And then I don't really need to show anything here. I just want to make sure that it loads and that the certificate information has been updated for like 90 days. As long as it loads, I should be good. Because I'll get alerts if I didn't update it properly. So yeah, it loads. Everything loaded okay. I can get to the UI. So that certificate is updated. And that's how easy it is to update a Let's Encrypt certificate. Sometimes there's a service that's listening on port 80 that needs to be changed. Sometimes you may have Nginx set up as a reverse proxy, and so you would do basically renew. But the only thing that would nothing would renew or nothing would change from the renewal. It would be when you're setting up certbot for the first time, you'll give like a command like -- Nginx or standalone, right? And that will basically tell certbot, which is going to manage and automate the SSL portion of Let's Encrypt where it's registering and everything like that, and renewing too. And revoking it. It also does revoking. So all of that will be handled by certbot. You can see everything it can do: revoke, delete certificates. You can, so standalone Apache, Nginx, Webroot, or manual. I typically do standalone unless Nginx is already present in the environment. Then I'll do Nginx. Never really used Apache or Webroot or manual before. But I'm sure there's some use cases for it. It's just not one that I've ran into personally yet. I typically only end up doing either one of these. So then when I generate and install a new certificate for the first time, if I'm doing standalone, I'll do cert only so that I get the certificates but don't install it, right? And then use HTTP validation over DNS. I don't typically do the DNS validation. I'll just open a port for a couple seconds, let it renew, let it install, do its HTTP validation, and then go from there. So that's really all that I've got to do today. I just wanted to kind of show people, how to renew some certificates in Jenkins and Conjure using Let's Encrypt. Just kind of get that out there. Also document it for my needs in a year when I need to do this all over again. Maybe we'll join back up and we'll hang out then. But I appreciate everybody hanging out. I've got some other work I've got to get to. It's noon. I'm a little hungry. I might get some lunch. Who knows? But I appreciate everybody hanging out. And until next time, stay secure.